Oh boy. Oh, a shot of light for all of us. I tell you what. I got started off wrong. And it all started with my coffee. And you can imagine what happened. I poured my coffee and mixed everything up good, and then decided, well, I'll just take a sip to see if I got the mixture right. And it was so hot, I went, woo! And I almost coffee went almost everywhere. So I had a little bit of a problem and had to clean up a little before we got started tonight. So that's why I got confused and mashed the wrong button. But anyway, we are started and we're here. Thank Abba Father Yahweh for that. Now, if you were early enough in the chat, you probably saw some of the talks going on about the audio from Coast to Coast AM radio station that Eric Rangel put on his channel, and so you can find the audio there. And I will tell you, well, first I'll tell you about the host, George Nuri. Now, he does a lot of stuff, a lot of interesting stuff, but not everything that he does is true stuff. So you have to, you have to take everything into context and consider what it is, what it really is. And it's not always going to be the truth, but there is a lot of truth. And there's always mysterious stuff there. So many of you probably like that sort of thing and would enjoy it. But anyway, George Nuri, the host, has a guest speaker whose name is, what is his name? Steve Quayle. Steve Quayle wrote a book about the mysteries of Antarctica. And he's talking about the sightings of ships, I'm not talking about ships that sail in the ocean, ships that sail in the outer space. And there's a supposed huge volcano at the South Pole, where, of course, middle of Antarctica. But we're going to talk about that in more detail at another time. But for now, what I want you to do, Mishpachah, is if you are interested in watching that or listening to that audio from coast to coast, the first thing I want you to do is to pray. You pray diligently before you listen to anything like that. And then if by chance you feel like that you are led by Yahweh to listen to that, then by all means, you listen. But if you start feeling uncomfortable with it, just turn it off and say, well, we'll talk about that another day. Now, some of you might have some questions about some of that. And if you do, please feel free. I'm going to try my best to put a time in next week. I don't usually answer questions. You know that. Because I don't know nothing. Why should I be the one answering questions? But in this situation, it's difficult. I will give a time next week, I'll be willing to answer questions. So if you have questions about this particular video, write them down so that you won't forget what your question is. And then at the time appointed next week, when we do the questions, then you can post it there, and I will answer as best I can. And my answer might be, well, I will have to get back to you next week. And my answer might be, I don't know. It just depends. So anyway, I'm looking in the chat, and I'm seeing others coming in. Melissa Garber, I didn't get to say hi to you. Blossom, I didn't get to say hi to you. David Ray, it just came in. Hello, David. And he says he saw that video and it's very interesting. Well, it's not really a video. It's just it might be a video somewhere. I don't know. But it's just audio. So you just have to listen to it. And Mackenzie says, Ken, I'm already uncomfortable with it. What do I know, really? Well, you don't have to be uncomfortable with it so much. I know that some of us can't take that sort of thing, and then some of us are drawn to, not particularly drawn to that sort of thing, but drawn to a better understanding that can be obtained if you look at things in the right way. So just don't go full force over there and say, I'm going to listen to this thing, like it or not, and I'm going to listen to the whole thing. But if you start feeling uncomfortable, like Albany said, she started feeling uncomfortable and she just got out of there. And that's what you need to do. Just get out of there. There's Cherie. Hello, Cherie. Good to see you here, sister. But anyway, that's neither here nor there at the moment, because we have more important things to do, such as my main job, which is reading the scriptures. So let's get to our main scene and put the scriptures up so we can begin. Okay. Now I'll just watch my face turn white as I put the scriptures on my screen. Oh, you saw that, huh? My son always complains about it, but I told him, hey, buy me a camera or shut up. And he just shuts up. He's not going to buy the camera. We are in 1 Shemuel chapter 30, and chapter 30 and chapter 31 are the last two chapters. So we're going on into 2 Shemuel, according to what the Ruach led me. So in chapter 30, let's take note first and foremost now. David and his men were returning to Ziklag because the princes of the Pelishtites didn't trust him to fight against Israel. They thought, well, he might turn and try to gain the favor of his country by fighting against us in the battle. So they wouldn't have it. They sent him back to the place that was given him, the city that was given to him for his family to live in, and for his men, his personal men, to live in, which is, is Ziklag. So we pick up there when he is returning. When he returns to Ziklag, which took him 3 days from when he left King Achish. So, chapter 30, verse 1. And it came to be, when David and his men came to Ziklag on the 3rd day, that the Amalekites had invaded the south and Ziklag, and smote Ziklag, and burned it with fire. I can imagine the thoughts of those men. But when they got back, and the city that their wives and children were in was burned. So, and they took captive the women and those who were from there, from small to great. They did not kill anyone, but they led them away and went their way. They were going to make them slaves, most likely, or even sell them for slaves. Why kill them if you can get something for them? And David and his men came to the city and saw it burned with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters had been taken captive. And David and the people who were with him lifted up their voices and wept until they had no more power to weep. And David's 2 wives, Ahinoam the Israelitess, and Abigail, the widow of Nabal, Nabal, the Carmelite, had been taken captive, and David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him, because the being of all the people was grieved for each of his sons and his daughters. But David strengthened himself in Yahweh, his Elohim. You know, sometimes when we first get news of something, it just shakes us. It rocks our boat, and we just cry, even wail, and pray to Abba, Father Yahweh. But if we look to him when difficult times come, things that we don't think we can take, things that we can't believe that we can accept, if we go before him and pitch our tent with him and let him pitch his tent with us, he will strengthen us. He did David, and he won't do any different for you, because he is not a respecter of persons. He considers us all the same, and he will not choose one before another, as long as we choose him first and foremost in our lives. So let's get on with the reading. And David said to Abiathar, the priest, son of Ahimelech, please bring the shoulder garment here to me. So Abiathar brought the shoulder garment to David. And David inquired of Yahweh, saying, do I pursue this band? Do I overtake them? And he answered him, pursue, for you shall certainly overtake them, and certainly rescue. Oh, can't you imagine? That relieved the heart of David, because he trusted Yahweh with all his heart. So David went, he and the 600 men who were with him, and came to the Wadi Besor, where a halt was made by those who were left behind. While David pursued, he and 400 men, for 200 halted, who were too faint to pass over the Wadi Besor. You said they'd traveled a long way already before they got back to Ziklag. And they don't carry a lot of food. Sometimes they don't carry any food, and they travel, and they have to go in the strength of what they have in their flesh. And they found a man in the field, a Mitzrite, and took him to David, and they gave him bread, and he ate. They let him drink water, and they gave him a piece of cake of figs and 2 clusters of raisins. And when he had eaten, his strength came back to him, for he had not eaten bread nor drunk water for 3 days and 3 nights. And David said to him, to whom do you belong, and where are you from? And he said, I am a young man from Mitzrayim, servant of an Amalekite, and my master left me behind, for I had been sick 3 days. The master thought he was going to die, so he just dumped off the baggage. We attacked the south of the Kerethites, and against that which belongs to Yehudah, and upon the south of Caleb, and we burned Ziklag with fire. And David said to him, could you bring me down to this marauding band? And he said, swear to me by Elohim that you neither kill me nor surrender me into the hands of my master. Then I bring you down to this marauding band. And he brought him down. Of course, I imagine David swore. And he brought him down, and saw they were spread out all over the land, eating and drinking and dancing, because of all the great spoil which they had taken from the land of the Pelishtites and from the land of Yehudah. And David smote them from twilight until evening of the next day, and none of them escaped, except 400 young men who rode on camels and fled. And David rescued all that the Amalekites had taken. David also rescued his 2 wives, and there was none missing to them, whether small or great, whether sons or daughters, praise Yahweh, or spoil, or whatever they had taken from them. David recovered all. Isn't Yahweh grand? My goodness. And besides, David captured all the flocks and herds they had driven before those livestock. And they said, this is David's spoil. That's what the men were saying, and they were happy. I guess they were celebrating. They probably were eating too. And Dawid came to the 200 men who were too faint to follow Dawid, who had been left at the Wadi Besor. Excuse me. And they went out to meet Dawid and to meet the people who were with him. And when Dawid came near the people, he greeted them. And all the evil and worthless men of those who went with Dawid answered and said, because they did not go with us, we do not give them any of the spoil that we have rescued, except for every man's wife and children, and let them take them and let them go. But Dawid said, now here's the heart of Dawid, and this is what Yahweh loved about Dawid. But Dawid said, my brothers, do not do so with what Yahweh has given us, who has protected us, and gave into our hand the band that came against us. And who would listen to you in this matter? For as his portion is, who goes down to the battle, so is his portion who remains with the baggage. They share alike. And it came to be, from that day forward, he appointed it for a law and a right ruling for Israel to this day. And when Dawid came to Ziklag, he sent some of the spoil to the elders of Yehudah, to his friends, saying, here is a present for you from the spoil of the enemies of Yahweh. To those in Beth El, and to those in Ramoth of the south, and to those in Yatir, and to those in Aror, and to those in Sifmoth, and to those in Eshtemoa, and to those in Rachal, and to those in the cities of the Yerahmeelites, and to those in the city of the Kenites, and to those in Hormah, and to those in Korashan, and to those in Athach, and to those in Hebron, and to those and to all the places where Dawid had gone up and down, and he and his men, of course. Chapter 31. But I'll first have a sip of coffee. But I'm going to be careful when I take a sip this time. Carefully. I'm sorry if you could hear me slurping or whatever. I wanted the coffee to bubble into my mouth and not scald me like it did a little while ago. I know you guys probably got a laugh out of that, but, and I'm getting a laugh out of it now. I'm laughing at myself. So anyway, okay, chapter 31. There's something we forgot to do, and Yahweh just reminded me. Father, I'm sorry. Mishpachah, I'm sorry. Let's go to Abba Father Yahweh in a sincere word of prayer and ask his barakah upon this study and upon all that we say and do, chat and our fellowship this night. Abba Father Yahweh, we come before you thanking you for the opportunity to gather together as a family once again to worship and praise your Kodesh name and to share our love for you with each other. We pray, Father, your many barakot on our lives. We pray your many barakot on this reading of your word that never returns void. We pray that you give us understanding and lead us ever closer to you, that in the Ruach HaKodesh we might be strengthened and we might be able to share that which we learn with others. We praise you, we worship you, and we're sorry we didn't pray to you at the very beginning, but I was kind of excited about the things that we were talking about. So I know that you understand. You always do, and you always have, and you always will. We love you and we praise you. All we pray through Yeshua HaMashiach, your beloved Bane, in the name above all names, Yahweh, our Elohim, Yahweh, Echad. Amen. Chapter 31. I feel better now. I feel like there's going to be more of a barakah upon this reading. And the Pelishtites were fighting against Yisrael, and the men of Yisrael fled from before the Pelishtites and fell slain on Mount Gilboa. Now, this is, of course, Shaul. This is not Dawid. This is Shaul and his army. And the Pelishtites followed hard after Shaul and his sons. And the Pelishtites smote Jehonathan, it broke my heart, and Avinadav, and Malchishua, sons of Shaul. And the battle went hard against Shaul, and the archers hit him, so that he was severely wounded by the archers. And Shaul said to his armor-bearer, "Draw your sword and thrust me through with it, lest these uncircumcised men come and thrust me through and roll themselves on me." But his armor-bearer would not, for he was greatly afraid. So Shaul took the sword and fell on it. And when his armor-bearer saw that Shaul was dead, he also fell on his sword and died with him. Thus Shaul died, and three of his sons, and his armor-bearer, also all his men together on that day. And they saw the men of Israel who were beyond the valley, and those who were beyond the Jordan, that the men of Israel had fled, and that Shaul and his sons were dead. So they forsook the cities and fled, and the Pelishtites came and dwelt in them. And the next day it came to be, when the Pelishtites came to strip the slain, that they found Shaul and his three sons fallen on Mount Gilboa. And they cut off his head, and stripped off his armor, and sent word throughout the land of the Pelishtites to announce it in the house of their idols and to the people. And they placed his armor in the house of the Ashtaroth, and they fastened his body to the wall of Beth Shan. And the inhabitants of Yavesh Gilead heard what the Philistines had done to Shaul. And all the brave men arose and went all night and took the body of Shaul and the bodies of his sons from the wall of Bethshan. And they came to Yavesh and burned them there. And they took their bones and buried them under the tamarisk tree at Yavesh, and fasted for 7 days. It's hard to even mention this. It's hard to read this, because we knew that inevitably it was coming, that Shaul would be destroyed. But I was so disheartened myself when I found that that Shaul, not only Shaul had died, but his three oldest sons had died, and most of all, Jehonathan, the very dear friend of David, died also. Now we're finished with 1 Shemuel, and we're going into 2 Shemuel. Let me get one more little sip. I didn't get not much of a sip. I can't take much of a sip because it's too hot. It is cooling down just a tad bit, just enough to bear. Okay. Shalom, Randy Ford. I'm just looking to see if there's any problems. I don't see any problems whatsoever in the chat. I'm sure you guys are having a good time. Marie A. Shalom, sister. Good to see you in there. And well, that's pretty much all I've seen so far. I don't have time to look very long. Okay, chapter 1 of 2 Shemuel. And it came to be after the death of Shaul, when David returned from smiting the Amalekites, that David remained 2 days in Ziklag. And it came to be on the 3rd day that, see, a man came out of the camp from Shaul with his garments torn and dust on his head. And it came to be, when he came to David, that he fell to the ground and did obeisance. And David said to him, "From where do you come?" And he said to him, "I have escaped from the camp of Israel." And David said to him, "What was the matter? Please inform me." And he said, "The people have fled from the battle, and also many of the people have fallen and are dead, and Shaul and Jehonathan, his son, are dead too." And David said to the young men who informed him, "How do you know that Shaul and Jehonathan, his son, are dead?" And this young man saw that David cared about Shaul and about Jehonathan. So he got it in his mind, apparently, got it in his mind that he might be able to get reward somehow from all of this. And the young men who informed him said, by chance, here goes his story, his lie. By chance I was on Mount Gilboa and saw Shaul leaning on his spear, and see the chariots and horsemen followed hard after him. And when he looked behind him, he saw me and called to me, and I answered, here I am. And he said to me, who are you? So I answered him, I am an Amalekite. And he said to me, please stand over me and put me to death, for agony has seized me, but my life is still in me. So I stood beside him and put him to death, for I knew he would not live after he had fallen. And I took the diadem that was on his forehead and the bracelet that was on his arm, and have brought them here to my master. And David took hold of his garments and tore them, and also all the men who were with him. And they mourned and wept and fasted until evening for Shaul and for Jehonathan his son, and for the people of Yahweh, and for the house of Israel, because they had fallen by the sword. Then David asked the young man who informed him, where are you from? And he answered, I am the son of a sojourner, an Amalekite. And David said to him, how was it you were not afraid to stretch out your hand to destroy the anointed of Yahweh? And David called one of the young men and said, draw near and fall on him. And he smote him so that he died. He lied. He thought he was going to get a reward. He got rewarded for his lie. He was killed. And David said to him, your blood is on your own head, for your own mouth has witnessed against you, saying, I myself have put to death the anointed of Yahweh. Then David lamented with this lamentation over Shaul and over Jehonathan his son, and he ordered the bow to be taught to the children of Yehudah. See, it is written in the book of Yashar. That's a direct mention of the book of Yashar here. And the bow is recorded also in the book of Yashar, but it's recorded here as well. So that's what's in the quotation marks, is the bow. It's a song that David wrote. The splendor of Israel is slain on your high places. How the mighty have fallen. Declare it not in Gath. Proclaim it not in the streets of Ashkelon, lest the daughters of the Pelishtites rejoice, lest the daughters of the uncircumcised exult. Mountains of Gilboa, no dew or rain be upon you, nor fields of offerings, for there the shield of the mighty lay rejected, the shield of Shaul, not anointed with oil. From the blood of the slain, from the fat of the mighty, the bow of Jehonathan did not turn back, and the sword of Shaul did not return empty. And Shaul and Jehonathan were beloved and pleasant in their eyes, in their lives, and in their death they were not parted. They were swifter than eagles, they were stronger than lions. Daughters of Israel, weep over Shaul, who wrapped you in scarlet with finery, who decked your robes with ornaments of gold. How the mighty have fallen in the midst of the battle. Jehonathan was slain in your high places. I am distressed for you, my brother Jehonathan. You have been very pleasant to me. Your love to me was wondrous, surpassing the love of a woman. How the mighty have fallen, and the weapons of battle perish. And I want to make mention, while I'm here, this part where David says, your love to me was wondrous, surpassing the love of women. It does not mean that he had any kind of a relationship with him in a, what kind of way. I won't say it because there are children here. But he didn't have that kind of relationship with Jehonathan, but he loved him as he loved his own soul. And men and women are different. Men and women can love each other, and they can love each other in a very powerful way. But sometimes when a man meets another man that meshes with his soul, they can become dear friends and can be closer than even a woman or women. So I just wanted to straighten that out, make sure that nobody took that the wrong way, because some people do, and they proclaim that the things that they do are good, and they're not. Okay, chapter 2. I'll take a sip of coffee before I go. This keeps me from my voice from getting ragged like it sounds right now, or a little bit ragged and rough, popping. It allows me to maintain my normal voice. Okay, checking on the chat. No orange going through, so I think everything is okay. A-okay. All right. Chapter 2. And it came to be afterwards that David inquired of Yahweh, saying, Do I go up to any of the cities of Yehudah? And Yahweh said to him, Go up. And David said, Where should I go up? And he said, To Hebron. And David, I apologize, I call him David a lot because I've done that all my life. And in the past few years only, I have started calling him by the correct name. And sometimes when you get older, the things from younger years are more implanted in your mind than the one in most recent years. So I try to make sure I see the pronunciation before I say it, but sometimes it just comes out of my mouth the way my mind remembers. And David went up there, as well as his two wives, Ahinoam, the Israelitess, and Abigail, the widow of Nabal, the Carmelite. And notice it always calls her Abigail, the widow of Nabal, the Carmelite. I guess the guy that wrote this just wanted us to be sure and understand that she was a widow. She was another man's wife, but she was a widow, so she was free to marry David. And she was quite a woman, so I don't blame David for wanting her as a wife. And David brought up the men who were with him, each man with his household, and they dwelt in the cities of Hebron. It appears that David, since now Shaul is dead, is not going to return to the land of the Pelishtites. He's going to stay in Israel. And the men of Yehudah came and anointed David sovereign over the house of Yehudah there. They also reported to David, saying, The men of Yabesh Gilead are they who buried Shaul. David, I just spoke it, I'll do it again. David then sent messengers to the men of Yabesh Gilead and said to them, You are Baruch of Yahweh, for you have shown this kindness to your master, to Shaul, that you buried him. And now Yahweh show kindness and truth to you, and I am also going to do you good because you have done this deed. And now let your hands be strengthened and be brave, for your master Shaul is dead, and also the house of Yehudah has anointed me sovereign over them. But Avner, son of Ner, commander of the army of Shaul, took Ishbosheth, the son of Shaul, and brought him over to Mahanaim, and set him up to reign over Gilead, and over the Asherites, and over Yisrael, and over Ephraim, and over Benjamin, and over all Israel. Ishbosheth, son of Shaul, was 40 years old when he began to reign over Israel, and he reigned 2 years. Only the house of Yehudah followed David. And the time that David was sovereign in Hebron over the house of Yehudah was 7 years and 6 months. And Avner, son of Ner, and the servants of Ishbosheth, son of Shaul, went out from Mechanaim to Givon. And Joab, son of Seruya, and the servants of David went out and met them by the pool of Givon. And they sat down, one on one side of the pool, and the other on the other side of the pool. They were at odds. David was still at odds with the ancestors of Shaul and the people of Shaul at that time, even though he did good to those who buried Shaul. And Avner said to Joab, these are the two commanders of the army, let the young men now rise and compete before us. And Joab said, let them rise. And they rose and went over by number, 12 from Benjamin, followers of Ishbosheth, son of Shaul, and 12 from the servants of David. And each one grasped his opponent by the head and thrust his sword in his opponent's side, and they fell down together, so that place was called the field of sharp swords, which is in Givon. This is how the battle started. Now, this is my writing here. This is how the battle started. An intense battle followed this demonstration because the 12 verses 12 did not show a clear winner. They all died. So the battle ensued with David defeating Avner and Benjamin. Now, the purpose of this, and it seems like it has no purpose if you just read it and you don't study and learn about those times. There was times that an entire battle would not take place, but 12 men were chosen from each army, and they would go out and compete, and whoever got the better was the winner, and the others would flee. So there wouldn't be a battle. But this time, there was a battle because the 12 verses 12 did not have a clear winner. And the battle was fierce that day, and Avner and the men of Israel were smitten before the servants of David. You know, Yahweh could have caused the 12 of Shaul, of Ishbosheth, to have lost, and there wouldn't have been a battle. So it must have been the will of Abba Father Yahweh that they fight. And it happened just like Yahweh wanted it to happen. So, and there were 3 sons of Seruya there, Joab, and Avishai, and Asahel. Asael. It's not Asahel. I used to call it Asahel, but it's Asael. And Asael was light on his feet as one of the gazelles in the field. And Asael pursued Avner, and in going he did not turn aside to the right or to the left from following Avner. And now he's fast, so he's catching up to Avner. And Avner looked behind him and said, "Are you Asael?" And he answered, "I am." And Avner said to him, "Turn aside to your right hand or to your left, and lay hold on one of the young men, and take his armor for yourself." But Asael would not turn aside from following him. And Avner said to Asael, "Turn aside from following me. Why should I smite you to the ground? How then could I face your brother Joab?" But he refused to turn aside. And Avner smote him with the blunt end of the spear in the stomach, so that the spear came out his back, and he fell down there and died on the spot. And it came to be that as many as came to the place where Asael fell down and died, they stood still. And Joab and Avishai pursued Avner. And the sun was going down, and they came to the hill of Ammah, which overlooks Giach, by the way to the wilderness of Givon. And the children of Benjamin gathered together behind Avner, a single company, and took their stand on top of the hill. And Avner called out to Joab and said, "Should the sword devour forever? Do you not know that it is bitter in the latter end? And when are you going to say to the people to turn back from pursuing their brothers?" And Joab said, "As Elohim lives, if you had not spoken, then all the people would not have given up pursuing their brothers until the next morning." Now there is a complication in the translation. This is not word for word what the verse 27 said in ISR. And I will explain to you that it was not understandable. If you go back and read verse 27, you will think it means something different from what it actually means. So, but it does actually mean that Joab was telling him, if you had not spoken, the people wouldn't have given up. They would have pursued all night until the next morning. But Joab then blew a ram's horn, and all the people halted and pursued Yisrael no further, nor did they fight any more. And Abner and his men went on all that night through the desert plain, and passed over the Jordan, and went through all Bithron, and they came to Machayanim. Excuse me. And Joab turned back from pursuing Abner, and when he had gathered all the people together, there were missing of David's servants 19 men and Asael, so that's 20 altogether. And I don't know if that included the 12 that died before the battle even began, that died in the show, that could have stopped the battle altogether. But the servants of David had smitten of Benjamin and Avner's men 360 men who died. And they brought Asael and buried him in his father's tomb, which was in Bethlehem. And Joab and his men went on all night, and they came to Hebron at daybreak. Chapter 3. This is the final chapter. It looks like we're going to be ending a few minutes early. So, sorry, I needed a sip of coffee. Notice my voice started getting a little bit hoarse, but after a sip or two of coffee, it's better. Now, if I could talk while I was drinking coffee, that'd be great, wouldn't it? But I have to stop for a moment to do that. So, anyway, let me, before I begin chapter 3, tell you a little bit about my week. I know, Mishpachah, that you guys are praying for me. I feel the power of your prayers in my life. And it's prayer that is different from any prayers I've had prayed for me before. So I know that we have some prayer warriors that reach Abba, Father, Yahweh with their hearts. And I want to thank you. But this past week, first of all, the day following, let's see, I don't want to get it confused. I want to get it right. The afternoon following the Saturday, I'm saying sad, huh? Saturday live chat and fellowship that we had, the unannounced one, my throat just before supper time got sore over here on my right side. It got so sore I couldn't swallow my food. I hadn't eaten supper. When I was trying to eat supper, I couldn't swallow my food. I said, "Oh my goodness!" And I prayed, and I just trusted Yahweh, and I could feel prayers of others for me too. And I knew that you guys were praying, but even though you didn't know about it, you're praying for me always, and I appreciate that. Well, the soreness spread from my right side and crossed over and was on both sides before I went to bed. And the next morning when I woke up and I thought, that's the shortest sore throat I've ever had. It was healed. It was completely well. It was not sore at all, like I hadn't had a sore throat at all. So that's amazing in and of itself, and speaks volumes about how that Yahweh listens to our prayers, listens to your prayers. And I appreciate that so much. And then what was the other thing that I wanted to share? Sometimes you need to pray for my mind, guys, because sometimes something goes in my mind and it stays there for a moment and did you get that? It's just gone. and and I think about it when it's already too late to say it. And I think it's already too late to say it. But there was another wonderful thing. I think I shared that with Melissa Garber. I think, didn't I, Melissa? Do you remember what the other thing was? Or did you forget it also? Okay. Anyway, we'll go on into chapter 3. But I just wanted to tell you that because I want to thank you so much for your prayers. And I trust in you as a mishpachah because of the great love I can feel from you guys. And I know that you can get a word through to Abba Father Yahweh. I have seen it. I've seen it in healings among our mishpachah. I've seen it in the works of Yahweh in my life as well as the lives of others in our mishpachah. So, if you remember, Matt and Beth McNeely were being kicked out of their place, and they had to find a place to live. And oh my goodness, how Yahweh opened up for them and blessed them, baruch them in a very fantastic way. And the fighting between the house of Shaul and the house of David was long drawn out. They're brothers, they're all Israelites, but they were fighting. But David grew stronger and stronger, and the house of Shaul grew weaker and weaker. And sons were born to David in Hebron, and his firstborn was Amnon by Ahinoam the Israelitess, and his second Kilav by Abigail the widow of Nabal the Carmelite, and the third Avshalom. And notice his name, Avshalom. If you know a little bit about Hebrew, a lot of times we can see some of these names and know pretty much what they mean. Av is father, and Shalom is peace. So maybe his name means peace from the Father, or the Father is peace. Son of Ma'achah, the daughter of Talmai, sovereign of Gesher. And the fourth, Adoniah, son of Haggith, and you see this, Adoniah, that is no doubt Yah is in his name, and Adon. So maybe it's saying Adon is Yah, or Yah is Adon. But Adoniah was the son of Haggith, and the fifth, Shephatiah. We can look at this one too. Shephat means judge, and maybe his name means Yah is the judge. Yah is the great judge. And Shephatiah was the son of Avital. And the sixth, Yithream, by David's wife Eglah. These were born to David in Hebron. And it came to be, while there was fighting between the house of Shaul and the house of David, that Avner was strengthening himself in the house of Shaul. And Shaul had a concubine. Now, when it says that he is strengthening himself in the house of Shaul, he's basically making himself more of a leader and more of a possible king. Who knows, he may have had intentions of becoming king of Israel, and taking Ishbosheth out of his reign, either by death or whatever. And Shaul had a concubine whose name was Rizpah, daughter of Aiah. And Ishbosheth said to Abner, "Why have you gone into my father's concubine?" And Abner was very displeased at the words of Ishbosheth, and said, "Am I a dog's head that belongs to Yehudah, that I show kindness to the house of Shaul your father, to his brothers, and to his friends today, and have not let you fall into the hand of Dawid, that you charge me today with a sin concerning this woman?" And see, actually, she was free. She was a widow. So he could do that. But sometimes a man doing that would infer that he is trying to take over as king. Elohim does so to Abner, and more also. For if I do not do for Dawid as Yahweh has sworn for him, if I do not do for Dawid as Yahweh has sworn to him, to cause the reign to pass over from the house of Shaul, and to raise up the throne of Dawid over Israel and over Yehudah, from Dan to Beersheba. That was my pen. Okay. And he was unable to answer Abner another word because he feared him. And Abner sent messengers on his behalf to Dawid, saying, "Whose is the land?" Saying also, "Make your covenant with me, and see, my hand is with you to bring all Israel to you." And Dawid said, "Good, I make a covenant with you. Only one matter I am asking of you. You do not see my face unless you first bring Michal, daughter of Shaul, when you come to see my face." Michal was Dawid's wife, the daughter of Shaul. But she was given to another man, and I am sure because of the law of the Torah, that Dawid would not take her himself again as a wife after she'd been given to someone else. I think that would have been sin. But he had other reasons, and I don't know exactly what those other reasons are. But Dawid then sent messengers to Ishbosheth, son of Shaul, saying, "Give me my wife Michal, to whom I am engaged for, who became engaged for 100 foreskins of the Pelishtites." And Ishbosheth sent and took her from her husband, from Paltiel, son of Laish. Now, he said 100 foreskins of the Pelishtites, but it was actually, that was the charge, but he brought 200, so he paid double. But her husband, Paltiel, went with her to Bahurim, going on and weeping behind her. And Avner said to him, "Go, turn back." And he turned back. And Avner had a word with the elders of Israel, saying, "In time past you were seeking for Dawid to be sovereign over you, and now do it. For Yahweh has spoken of Dawid, saying, By the hand of my servant Dawid I save my people Israel from the hand of the Pelishtites and the hand of all their enemies." And Avner also spoke in the hearing of Benjamin. And Avner also went to speak in the hearing of Dawid in Hebron, all that seemed good to Israel and all the house of Benjamin. And Avner and 20 men with him came to Dawid at Hebron, and Dawid made a feast for Avner and the men who were with him. And Avner said to Dawid, "Let me arise and go, and gather all Israel to my master the sovereign, and let them make a covenant with you, and you shall reign over all that your being desires." And Dawid sent Avner away, and he went in peace. That's how peace comes, but some people won't let peace rest. They'll stir up trouble. And see, the servants of Dawid and Joab came from a raid, and brought much spoil with them. But Avner was not with Dawid in Hebron, for he had sent him away, and he had gone in peace. And Joab and all the army that was with him came, And they reported to Joab, saying, Avner, son of Ner, came to the sovereign, and he sent him away, and he is gone in peace. And Joab went to the sovereign and said, What have you done? See, Avner has come to you. Why is it that you sent him away, and he is already gone? You know that Avner, son of Ner, came to deceive you, and to know you're going out and you're coming in, and to know all that you are doing. See, he was accusing Avner of betraying David. And Joab may have thought that way, but regardless of whether he thought that way or not, that's what he told David. Joab then left David, and he sent messengers after Avner, who brought him back from the well of Sirah. But David did not know it. See, Joab is doing this behind his back. Thus Avner returned to Hebron, and Joab took him aside in the gate to speak with him privately, and there struck him in the stomach so that he died for the blood of Asael, his brother. And when David heard it afterwards, he said, My reign and I are guiltless before Yahweh forever, for of the blood of Avner, son of Ner. Let it rest on the head of Joab and on all his father's house, and let there be never fail to be in the house of Joab one who has a discharge, or is a leper, or who leans on a staff, or falls by the sword, or who lacks bread. So Joab and Avishai his brother slew Avner, because he had killed their brother Asael at Givon in the battle. And David said to Joab and to all the people who were with him, Tear your garments, gird yourselves with sackcloth, and mourn for Avner. And the sovereign David followed the coffin. And they buried Avner in Hebron. And the sovereign lifted up his voice and wept at the grave of Avner. And all the people wept. And the sovereign sang a lament over Avner, and said, Should Avner die as a fool dies? Your hands were not bound, nor your feet put into shackles. As one falls before sons of evil, so you fell. And all the people wept over him again. So all the people came to cause David to eat food while it was still day. But David swore, saying, Elohim do so to me, and more also, if I taste bread or whatever else till the sun goes down. And all the people took note of it, and it was good in their eyes, since whatever the sovereign did was good in the eyes of all the people. And all the people and all Israel knew that day that it had not been the sovereign's intent to kill Avner, son of Ner. The sovereign also said to his servants, Do you not know that a prince and a great one has fallen in Israel today? And I am weak today, though anointed sovereign. And these men, the sons of Seruya, are too harsh for me. Let Yahweh repay the evildoer according to his evil. Okay, and I ended just in time. So I'll take a look at the chat. Let's see, let me go ahead and bring this down. Get back to my main scene. Okay, there we go. And now I'll look at the chat. Everything's still going well. And I don't have time to chat any, but I just want to say hi if I see any others there. Aquatics XD, I've never heard of you. I'd like to see your face, though. You can change your picture so we can see your face. And I saw somebody else that I hadn't. Oh, Hannah Wilson. Okay. She says, Shalom, everyone. Sorry, so late. You're not late, sister. Yeah, it's just you're right on time. And you can always, watch this again. At least you got here in time to fellowship with the Mishpachah. So that's wonderful. Amen. Amen. Camellia, I didn't mention you earlier. And we got Jaffa 360. And he's talking about some herbs Abba created for your mind, Ken. Okay, I need to go back hopefully, and get this and write it down and see. I think ginkgo is ginkgo biloba or biloba, something like that. Bacopa. I haven't heard of that. Ashwagandha. Okay. I haven't heard of that, Jaffa, but thank you. I will look into those and possibly buy some. My mind needs to be sharper. Maybe if my mind was sharper, I wouldn't forget to mash the right buttons on here. I wouldn't have as much problems. But, you know, I watch people who are professionals at this, and they make sometimes as many mistakes as I make. And most of the time, my mistakes are just little silly things, and I recover quickly. But sometimes their mistakes, they can't cover quickly. But anyway, all being said and done, we are finished for the night. Love each and every one of you, Mishpachah. My prayers for each and every one of you, and thank you for your prayers for me. Shalom and Ahav. Take it away, Alan.
Highly exalted, the horse and its rider he has thrown into the sea. Yah is my strength and song, and he has become my deliverance. He is my El, and I praise him, Elohim of my father, and I exalt him. Yahweh is a man of battle, Yahweh is his name. He has cast Pharaoh's chariots and his army into the sea, and his chosen officers are drowned in the sea of reeds. The depths covered them, they went down to the bottom like a stone. Your right hand, O Yahuwah, has become great in power. Your right hand, O Yahuwah, has crushed the enemy. And in the greatness of your excellence, you pulled down those who rose up against you. You sent forth your wrath. It consumed them like stubble, and with the wind of your nostrils, the waters were heaped up. The floods stood like a wall, the depths became stiff in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I pursue, I overtake, I divide the spoil, my being is satisfied on them. I draw out my sword, my hand destroys them. You blew with your wind, the sea covered them, they sank like lead in the mighty waters. Who is like you, O Yahuwah, among the mighty ones? Who is like you, great in Kodeshah, awesome in praises, working wonders? You stretched out your right hand, the earth swallowed them. In your kindness, you led the people whom you have redeemed. In your strength, you guided them to your Kodesh dwelling. Peoples heard, they trembled. Anguish gripped the inhabitants of Pelasheth. Then the chiefs of Edom were troubled, the mighty men of Moab. Trembling grips them, all the inhabitants of Canaan. and by the greatness of your arm, they are as silent as a stone. Until your people pass over, O Yahuwah. Until the people whom you have bought pass over. You bring them in and plant them in the mountain of your inheritance, in the place, O Yahuwah, which you have made for your own dwelling, the Mikdash, O Yahuwah, which your hands have prepared. Yahweh reigns forever and ever.